Welcome to Inside Athletic Training, a podcast from the Professional Baseball Athletic Trainer Society and the ultimate destination for athletic training professionals, students, and educators looking to learn more about sports medicine and athletic training. In each episode, we'll dive headfirst into conversations with experts in the field, bringing you insights, stories, and cutting-edge information about athletic training and sports medicine. This week on Inside Athletic Training, we welcome in Chris McDonald, the Detroit Tigers Assistant Athletic Trainer. Enjoy the show. All right, Chris, welcome to Inside Athletic Training. Very excited to have you on for episode 57 of the show. Definitely look forward to talking to you about your career in athletic training and with the Tigers. Obviously, you're an assistant athletic trainer with the club right now, a huge role, and we'll get into all that soon. But I want to start the show by letting you take some time to share with our listeners a bit about your background. So let us know where you're from, were you into sports or anything like that growing up, and also how you found your passion for athletic training.
I want to thank you for having me on here. It's an honor to be on this podcast first. I grew up in the Detroit area, just about 20 minutes north of downtown Detroit. Played soccer, baseball, football, snow skiing, just always playing sports. I actually, in high school, started working in the home clubhouse at Tiger Stadium as a clubhouse attendant, bat boy, and knew I wanted to be in professional baseball. Used that as an opportunity to kind of look around at what jobs were people were doing and were available, and discovered Russ Miller and Steve Carter as the athletic trainers, and spent some time with them, got to know what they did. It really piqued my interest and thought this is something I want to go into. Yeah,
that's definitely a unique story. And not many of your colleagues across the league were probably in clubhouses at such a young age. So obviously a great amount of insight there for you in baseball and kind of learning what you like about it. But to get to that point, obviously education is a key aspect for all you guys and women out there in athletic training. You graduated from Bowling Green State University with a bachelor's degree in education, sports management with an emphasis in athletic training. Talk about those early days at Bowling Green and kind of how your interest and passion for athletic training and sports medicine grew while you were at college.
I was fortunate. When I was at Bowling Green, the athletic training program was an internship program where I had my hands on athletes the first day. Like the minute I walked on campus and walked over to the training room to say hi, because I'd already interviewed for the program and been accepted, they were teaching me how to tape an ankle, how to apply an ice bag, how to apply, moist heat packs, make them and put them on athletes safely. So from day one, I was hands-on, and that was such a great opportunity to grow as an athletic trainer right off the bat and pique my interest, because you're not just standing around watching, you're working and you're helping and you're getting a really good taste as far as what this career entails, and to carry that further. As I finished at Bowling Green, I did an internship with Doug Teeter in Lakeland with the Tigers, and I was the same situation where it was hands-on. I worked extended spring training with Ed Halber, and it was just him and I, and we took care of 60 athletes. And when he would go on road trips in extended spring, I'd stay back and take care of the guys. So I got a lot of hands-on experience through college and my internship that I still, draw back on that experience today.
Yeah, that's a great point. And a lot of people we've had on the show have mentioned how important it is for not only a student to learn the anatomy and the textbook side of things, but the real life skills of putting your hands on athletes, building relationships. I know it's a balance, but is there one thing that's more important than the other when it comes to those two aspects of athletic training?
I don't think any one's more important than the other. I feel like, you have to reach the other person that's on the other side. They're athletes or baseball players, but at the end of the day, they're still people. And you have to know how to work with them as well as do your portion of the job, and to be able to palpate and evaluate and get them what they need.
Yeah, of course, both aspects, like you mentioned, very important, but I'm sure it gave you somewhat of a unique advantage to be getting your hands on athletes so early in your career, which is great to hear. I want to talk a bit more about your breakthrough into baseball. You mentioned your college career and your first steps there. But you've been with the Tigers organization for more than 20 years, which is an incredible accomplishment for any athletic trainer. You worked in so many different leagues, Venezuelan Winter League, Dominican Winter League, Lakeland, as you mentioned, among other stops with the organization. Talk to the listeners here who may be looking to break into the minor leagues or are in college right now about your journey through the minor leagues with a ton of success and how experience at those various levels really kind of shapes you as an athletic trainer.
I worked my way up just like a player would. Back when I was coming up there, worked a season of rookie ball, season in short season A ball in the New York Penn League, 3 years in the Florida State League, 8 years in the Eastern League, and 6 years in the International League. I worked 8 years in the Dominican Winter League and a year in Venezuela. And every place I went to, I pulled stuff from there, from the experience, has made me a better athletic trainer. Coming up into minor leagues, you grow as an athletic trainer as the players are growing. Your skill set and knowledge is always growing, but you're getting an understanding at each level what the players are going through. You're riding the bus and seeing the struggles of the minor league player at each level. And as you climb up through the minor leagues, it gets easier for the player. And it also, some of the things get easier for you. There's different challenges at every level, and you learn from all of the challenges from rookie ball all the way up through AAA. Working in the winter leagues, you go through a ton of adversity. You're being plucked out of your country and put into an unfamiliar environment. And not only do you have to acclimate to the environment, but you have to do your job and work with players. And the emphasis on baseball down there is winning as opposed to development in the minor leagues. And you're coordinating between your front office and winter ball and the 30 front offices in the United States the affiliate of the players. You want to talk about getting walking a day in a Latin player's shoes, you go down, and that's essentially, if you think about it, they're being plucked out of their country and brought to the U.S. and dropped, and they go through the same struggles at first of adapting to our culture while trying to play baseball.
Yeah, a great way to explain it. And obviously that can't do nothing but help in terms of building relationships and kind of understanding the perspective of the players you're working with. I actually spoke with a former colleague of yours, Corey Tremble, on the podcast last week, and he talked about you and your experience in winter ball and how it takes courage and it's a risk to go abroad where you don't know anything, you don't know the area, very unfamiliar. Talk about your mindset, when you were in winter ball at the beginning, something I think maybe some students might not know much about or might be a little worried about going over there, maybe the Dominican or something like that. What was it like when you were making that decision and kind of getting your mindset around, I'm actually going to do this?
Winter baseball was something I've always wanted to do because I thought it would be a great way to advance my career. You're getting exposure, like I said, by working with the athletic trainers with the 30 major league clubs, and you're working with higher level athletes. I was fortunate. One of my best friends, Juan Samuel, was going down to manage a team, and talking with him and talking with the Escogido front office, I was able to go down with him, which really made the transition a lot easier because I had somebody at least that I knew that was going down there, that, we flew into Santo Domingo together and he helped me through the customs process and everything. But at the end of the day, when he dropped me off at the hotel and he drove off, there was still that moment of, where am I at?
Yeah.
What did I just do? But you survive. Working in the minor leagues, you just find a way to get the job done through good conditions, bad conditions. You adapt.
No, definitely what am I doing moment. I'm sure everybody's probably had that in their career, but maybe not in another country or something like that. But obviously worked out in great decisions by you. Within that time spent in winter ball and in the minor leagues, was there something you did or you strived to do to kind of make sure your work and your efforts were seen by people in the big leagues or people who made decisions for the athletic training staff? Perhaps Kevin Rand, who we'll talk about later on, but just to show guys, what you're doing, your skill set, or were you kind of in the mindset that I'm just going to put my head down and grind it out, and if I work hard, things will kind of work out for me?
I was more in the latter, where I'm just going to do my job. I'm going to keep my head down. I'm going to focus on what I'm supposed to do, And if others notice, that's great. If they don't, I know I can look in the mirror at the end of the day and know I did a good job. And that was more important to me because at the end of the day, when the organization doesn't have to worry about Chris McDonald, the athletic trainer at Erie, Pennsylvania, or Toledo, because we know he's doing a good job, that ultimately is what I'm striving for, not necessarily the recognition or trying to prove myself necessarily to somebody else.
Yeah, and I know a lot of the, staffs and the makeup of them, a lot of people's jobs are kind of making the jobs of those above them easier and making sure nothing falls through the cracks. So obviously, if you're squared away on everything and doing a great job at a lower level, it's going to be noticed whether you're trying to make it happen or not. To add on to that previous question, when you are going through that minor league grind, is it ever tough, or was it for you to stay patient? So many years at different minor league stops for you ultimately led to the big league job. But was it tough to stay where you are, be patient and present at those minor league levels when you ultimately, a lot of you guys are striving to make it to the big leagues one day?
Absolutely. My first couple of years, I moved up levels really quickly. And the next thing you know, I was in AA, and I was there for 8 years, and was starting to wonder, am I gonna die in Erie, Pennsylvania, or am I gonna make it out to the next level and keep moving up? It got difficult towards the end of my minor league aspect of my career, because it did drag out. But I looked above me at the athletic trainers, Matt Rankin, Doug Teeter, Kevin Rand, and they were phenomenal athletic trainers, and they were mentors to me that, I realized if I'm going to move up in the Detroit Tiger organization, something's going to happen to one of those guys. And I didn't want that. I wanted to do a good job. I wanted the people who helped me to have a long career. I wasn't trying to move because somebody else was getting out of baseball or something else. So I tried to stay patient and just keep doing the best job I could, improving my skills, improving my knowledge base. And when the time's right, the opportunity would come.
And during those minor league days, Chris, when you were, wondering when your next stop's going to come, when you're going to move up a level, were there any role models or mentors in athletic training in the field of sports medicine who you were able to talk to, who kind of showed you how to stay patient and just kind of guided you through that process?
Yeah, I would say for that aspect, Matt Rankin was a great mentor. Matt spent something like 14 years in AAA.
Yeah.
And his patience at that level, and he taught me, we just because we're not necessarily in the big leagues or moving up, we still have a good job. We still love what we do. We're still working with athletes, and when the time's right, it'll happen. And we leaned on each other a little bit, where we spoke a lot, almost on a daily basis, when I was in AA and he was in AAA, as far as preparing me for the next level and getting the patient, being patient and knowing the time will come.
And now that you've obviously made it to the big leagues in your 5th year now with the Tigers big league staff as an assistant athletic trainer, looking back and kind of reflecting on those years of even in college or in the minor leagues and just working through those times in your career, any advice now that you wish you had that you might give to a student who maybe is doing their first internship this year with the club or their first year in winter ball or, something like that? Any, skills or personality traits or anything like that you recommend to young athletic trainers and students?
The number one piece of advice I try to give to students, whether it's through an internship or presenting to a group of students, is at the end of the day, the athlete is a person too. And treat them like a person, treat them how you'd want to be treated. And no matter how great your skill sets are, if you can't get that player to buy in to what you're trying to tell them to do, that they need to do, they're not going to buy in. They're not going to do it. So you have to be able to communicate. You have to be able to get buy-in from the player for them to do what you want them to do. And that's when your skill set can really, really shine, is once you've got their buy-in.
Yeah, that's a great point there. I think a lot of people see the pro athlete, the big leaguer, and they, see the athlete and not the human inside. And obviously the training room's a sacred place and a lot of conversations or relationships built in there. So great for students to understand that that's the human element is almost more important, obviously, once your skills are up to par. Well, Chris, one thing that you mentioned earlier that is super cool is you're a Detroit guy working for the Tigers. You've been in that clubhouse basically your whole life, it sounds like. What was it like getting to the big leagues? And did you ever have a moment where it was like, wow, I actually made it inside the clubhouse as a, athletic trainer for the Tigers when, I've been in this city my whole entire life. Kind of describe that feeling, when you got that call up.
The first time I actually had that moment, I was in 2014, my first year in AAA. In September, they brought me up to help out, and that was really when I had the moment of like, oh my gosh, this has come full circle. The equipment manager who I had worked for was still the equipment manager, and walking in and saying hi to him on my way to the training room was unbelievable.
Yeah.
But then 2020 was my first year in the big leagues, and there's not a whole lot you can say good about 2020. It was kind of a crappy way to break into the big leagues. Weren't allowed to really get the full big league experience. We were overloaded with COVID testing and social distancing rules, and like, it was almost like it was miserable, but we got through it.
No, that's a weird year for sure for a lot of you and your colleagues. Definitely not the ideal first year there, but ultimately making it up there is awesome and a huge accomplishment. I want to shift gears a bit and talk about someone who a lot of us, around PBATs and athletic training are very familiar with, and that's Kevin Rand, the longtime Tigers head athletic trainer for so many years. Kevin, seemingly an icon in Detroit and in the world of athletic training. I wonder what you experienced with Kevin and how impactful he was on your career as you came up.
Kevin Rand was unbelievable. He was a great mentor. He was a great resource, and we still keep in touch and talk fairly frequently today. He came in with such energy, and he brought positive energy into the training room on a daily basis. He was really where I kind of learned about developing relationships with players to get their buy-in. He had such good relationships with everybody. He treated everybody amazing, whether it was the guy who sweeps up the garbage at the end of the night to the superstar big leaguer. He treated everybody great, and you could see it how people looked at him and responded to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think anyone that knows Kevin, he really makes you feel like you're the only person he's listening to when you're talking. He makes you feel like extremely special, even if you're just kind of like an entry level employee or anything like that. So I can definitely be a testament to that. Well, recently in the Tigers organization, you guys have had a big group of changes on staff. Ryan Eubanks coming in as the new head athletic trainer. Kelly Rhodes coming in this year as an assistant athletic trainer over from Arizona. Love to hear your experiences working with a new staff, how that's been, new leadership in Detroit with Ryan there and Kelly, working next to you. How's that been? I know it's always tough to kind of move on from the old guard, but wondering, how that's been in Detroit for you guys.
Ryan came in last year and he brought a lot of energy. He kind of let us just do our jobs, and he sat back a little bit and observed on how we did things. He didn't just come in and try to make great changes. And it showed me like, this guy's a good leader. He's not just trying to implement the way he's always done it. He's going to give us a chance to explain and see how we go about things. And he had a lot of trust in me. He has really come in and worked with me to help develop me to continue to become a better athletic trainer and move up. And I really am grateful for the opportunity to work with Ryan. He's doing great things, and we're going to go some great places in the Detroit Tiger organization. Kelly came in, and we're, to be honest, still feeling around each other, trying to get to know each other. But overall, she's a very intelligent athletic trainer. I've learned from her, watching her with some of the things she's brought over with her on how she does things, how she uses certain techniques and stuff. And we've had some really good conversations. I think she's a good addition to the team, and so far we're working really well together. And I think it's just going to get better from here.
Yeah, absolutely. Some big time talent in athletic training in that training room. So awesome to see you guys kind of get to know each other and work together throughout this season. To get into more specifics about your actual job, I know a lot of our guests have said that getting a player back on the field who's been injured is one of their favorite things about athletic training and why they do it. Do you have one or two specific things that you really value most and appreciate about your role?
That obviously is the number one thing is when the player comes in and they're like, I don't know if I can go today. I'm like 50, 60%. And you put in your work, you use your skills, your experience, and you work on them, and they get off the table and they're like, you know what, I think I can play today. And you watch them go out and they have success on the field. That's the ultimate reward of this job. Is like, wow,
Sure.
you know what, that guy wasn't going to play when he came in. And because I did these things with them, they were able to go out and then they helped the team win the game that day.
Yeah, very, very cool.
Um,
To have an impact on the actual winning and losing. I think there's very few people in sports, outside of athletic trainers and managers and players who really get to have that opportunity to impact winning. So I'm sure it's amazing, especially for you, even being a hometown kid of Detroit, even more special there. One kind of the underrated aspect of athletic training is the travel. I want to talk to you a bit about that. So we know players are on the road a ton, but I don't think a lot of people think about the support they have in athletic trainers and clubhouse guys and people who are on the road as well so much. So I'm wondering what you do to take care of yourself when you're on the road and maintain your excellence in the training room. When you're tired, and when things are getting crazy. What do you kind of do to find time for yourself, make sure you're recharged and ready to go each day when you're on the road?
when we're on the road, one of the things that I started doing actually in 2020, because with all the restrictions, we weren't really allowed to leave the hotel except to go out and exercise. And so I started going on runs in the city. And that was kind of my tourism, was I get to see the city by going for a run. And, there's some great running cities that we go to where you can run and really see the city, Chicago, Minnesota. Like we go to some pretty cool places to go run. But I've actually continued to go on runs in each city that we go to, even though we're allowed to go and do other things now, because it's a stress reliever for me. It clears my mind, time to clear my mind, or an opportunity to further think on a situation or a case that I might be walking into later in that day. And just going for a run it's great for my mental health and my physical health, and helps me do my job better.
Yeah, and we'll get into in a little bit here a couple of questions at the end to hear about some of those favorite cities of yours. But I want to talk a little bit about some accomplishments. Like we said, you've been with the Tigers for over 20 years, in the big leagues for about half a decade now. All things that I'm sure seemed very tough to accomplish when you were coming up in college and through the minor leagues. You also were named the Minor League Athletic Trainer of the Year in 2019. And back-to-back Eastern League Athletic Trainer of the Year in 2018 and 2019, among many other accolades. Looking back on your career and reflecting on all those accomplishments, did you ever anticipate having such a good run with the Tigers, being a hometown guy, or was this a plan, or you kind of look back and you reflect and you're kind of wowed by everything that's come to you?
When I started out with the Tiger organization, my goal was to get to the major leagues with the Tigers, but at the same point, understanding that was going to be very difficult and it was not closed to other organizations. I've been fortunate to go on, like you said, a good run with the Tiger organization where I've progressed and haven't had to switch or haven't needed to switch organizations. And there's a lot of good people here in Detroit, and there's been turnover, but I've really enjoyed working with the people who are here. I hope we can continue to build, because we have some good stuff going on here in Detroit. And I don't think I ever would have anticipated all this, but this was a goal to be, to go full circle and go from working in the clubhouse in Detroit to being an athletic trainer. It's been pretty cool.
Yeah. And one more question about that hometown aspect. I know we've talked about that a bunch, but I think it's a really, really special thing. Do you find, that you get more support from, I'm sure you have family and so many friends in the area. Is it kind of like a more stressful situation with everybody you kind of grew up with, seeing you in the dugout in the clubhouse, maybe wanting to come to games versus that supporting aspect of everyone, in your hometown being there supporting you?
It's definitely supportive. I have a lot of family and friends, and we just had the home opener in Detroit. It was pretty cool. After they did the introductions and I went back up into the clubhouse, I had about 4 text messages from different people who took a picture of me on the scoreboard when they introduced me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
There's always somebody in the hometown that's watching the game that I know and like, hey, I saw you on TV or whatnot, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, really special there. I know we have a couple other PBATS members. Nick Frangel with the Cubs is a Chicago guy. A lot of people, oddly enough, getting that opportunity to work for their hometown club, which is really, really cool. Well, Chris, I know you have a lot of great staff members. We talked about Ryan and Kelly, but I did want to give you some time today just to kind of mention other people on the staff who make up the athletic training staff for the Tigers.
So Ryan and Kelly are awesome to work with. Our physical therapist, Duncan Evans, does a great job. He's very knowledgeable and is always willing to help teach and educate us on things that maybe he's had experience or learned in his world that he brings over to us to help us do our job better. We work with our strength coaches, Shane Wallen and Drew Hightoff. We collaborate with them on a lot of different things to help the athletes out, where we'll take program from the training room down to the weight room, hand them off to them and get guys out on the field. We have a couple of biomechanics that help us out too, if they can see changes through the technology with players' mechanics to determine, is this something they're trying to do, or is this possibly an injury compensation? That gives us more information to fix any kind of issues that might be going on, even though they're asymptomatic, and keep them going out on the field. We have a really good team here.
Yeah, no doubt. And I know you guys are doing great things over there with everybody you mentioned. Well, Chris, to wrap up today's episode, always fun to finish with our quick Q&A segment called Extra Bases. So I'm going to ask you 4 quick questions, starting at first base, and let you share some insight with the listeners about your favorite things in athletic training and baseball. So we'll kick it off here at first base. Outside of Detroit, what is your favorite athletic training room to work in the big leagues?
I have to say Texas. The Rangers did a phenomenal job with their new stadium, and the visiting training room is enormous. It's got everything you'd want as an athletic trainer in it to do your job while on the road. They really did a good job of making us feel at home there.
Yeah, I've had I think our most popular answers are probably Atlanta and Texas. So Jamie and Lucky and the guys down there obviously did an awesome job designing that. Moving on to second base, you guys, like you said, you visit so many cool cities, but one thing you do that, none of us are doing is watching a big league game from the dugout. Such a cool vantage point there. Do you have a favorite big league stadium to watch a game from the dugout?
I do. I actually have 2, and one is probably a more frequently answered, and the other is, I guarantee you I'm the only one to ever say this. Boston is probably my favorite, just because of the history in there. Like, to sit in the dugout and think about the players and the people who've come through that dugout and played on that field. It's unbelievable to go inside the wall at Fenway and see the names on the inside of the wall.
Yeah.
And it's such a cool environment. They're always good crowds that are knowledgeable fans, and that's pretty cool. And the answer, I guarantee you nobody's ever said, is the Oakland Coliseum. Growing up a football fan and baseball fan and seeing games there at that stadium where, there's so much history there. Bo Jackson, think back and running the football down the field, and the World Series that were held there with McGuire and Canseco, and the history, and sitting in there and watching it. It's such a unique stadium that nothing's ever going to be built like that again. It's off the wall, I know that, but it's always cool to go out there. It's too bad that we're not going to be able to go back too many more times. I think we have one more trip.
Yeah, no, definitely a cool place. I know anyone our age, kind of, you remember watching people play football with the baseball dirt down there, and baseball was seeing some football lines. It's super unique, and like you said, literally will never happen again. So I kind of think you're on the right track there, but definitely a unique answer. Moving on to third base. I know, running is important to you, exercise, just getting outside, seeing cities. When you're on the road, do you have a favorite city to visit?
I would probably have to say Chicago is my favorite. They got great food. I love to go run along Lake Michigan. There's so much to do in the city. Last time we were there, we got the opportunity to go over to Barstool Sports and meet the guys over there and have some fun over there. And there's always stuff going on, great food, deep dish pizza. You can't beat it. And that's probably my favorite. been there the most, I think, of any other city we've gone to. That's probably number one in my book.
Yeah, I don't think you can beat a nice run on the lakefront, Lakeshore Drive early in the morning with the sun coming up. Really, really tough to beat in Chicago. Last question for today, moving on to home plate. I know, we talked a bit about your experiences and getting into the clubhouse for the first time as an athletic trainer, where you kind of grew up. But did you have a welcome to the big leagues moment at some point during your first year at that level?
In 2020, like I said, there really wasn't a whole lot of good that came out of it. Everybody was just kind of focused on staying healthy. And my first year really kind of stunk. I mean, spring training was great. And we actually went down to the Dominican Republic to play against the Minnesota Twins in a spring training game down there. And that was probably my closest welcome to the big leagues moment, because I got the opportunity to travel back to Santo Domingo, where I had worked for 8 years, and work with the major league team down there to put on a game. And it was pretty cool to go down there for that. But 2 days later, spring training was canceled and we were sent home. So
yeah, that
would probably be the closest thing to my welcome to the big leagues moment.
Yeah, that's definitely a unique story, that year and coming up at that time. So, good to hear you're getting the more realistic and normal experiences now as an athletic trainer at the big league level. Well, Chris, really appreciate you joining the show today. I know you guys are super busy with the season underway. I appreciate your time and dedication to PBATS as always. And we wish you, Ryan, Kelly, and the rest of the group in Detroit nothing but the best of luck this year.
Awesome. Thank you for having me again.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Inside Athletic Training. We hope you've gained valuable insights, inspiration, and knowledge to fuel your athletic training journey. If you enjoyed today's show, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review on your favorite platform. And also, stay connected with us on pbats.com for more news about athletic training and sports medicine.